Good morning, everyone. We're just going to wait another minute or two to hopefully get a couple more committee members on board to join. So, if Brent doesn't mind holding tight, we'll get started shortly. All right, Alex. Doug is out today. Do you mind acting as chair?
No, that's fine.
Okay. We're actually still waiting on one more committee member, but she indicated she might be a couple minutes late, so I think we should probably do roll call the meeting to order. I can go through the rules procedures, and then when she joins, we'll just make a note of it, and then we'll should have quorum at that point.
Thank you.
So if you want to, I guess, call the meeting to order, I'll do a quick roll call and then go through it. Or
Okay.
I guess we can go through. I can go through the minutes. I can go through the rules first, and then we can call roll call. Give it a couple more minutes.
Thank you.
So this is the April 20th Ohio City Design Review Committee meeting. Go through the virtual meeting regulations and procedures. The meeting shall be conducted according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Recusal due to conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the start of any presentation. Committee members will then leave the meeting for the duration of the case discussed. No presentation submissions will be accepted after the deadline. The chair will call the meeting to order and ask for roll call of the committee. The administrator will introduce the first project and provide some background information if applicable. The meeting will then be turned over to the applicant to proceed through their presentation. Each presentation should be completed prior to questions and comments from the committee. Once the presentation has concluded, the administrator will read any received comments. The committee will then begin deliberation and project review. Please use the raise hand feature if you want to comment. After deliberations and review concludes, the committee will render its recommendation and vote. After the vote, the applicants may leave the meeting and the administrator will introduce the next project. All projects will follow the same format until all projects are heard by the committee. Once all projects are heard, the chair will call for any committee/administrative reports. After all reports have been heard, the chair will adjourn the meeting. As far as community comments go, any and all community members may provide written comments, thoughts, or questions regarding the projects presented to the committee for review and approval. Community members may also telephone their comments or questions to the committee administrator. All comments, thoughts, or questions must be submitted to the committee administrator, that's me, no later than 48 hours prior to the start of the meeting. Submissions can be made by email to landmarks@clevelandohio.gov. They may be made by phone at 216-664-2532, or submissions may be made by dropping off the Cleveland Landmarks Commission office, room 519, City Hall. Public comment or submissions made after the deadline will not be heard by the committee. Public comment will be collected by Landmark staff and sent to the committee members for review prior to the scheduled meeting. Staff will summarize any received comments. The applicant of the project is under no obligation to answer any community questions. Community members are invited to attend design review committee meetings, but there will be no open public comment period. As far as design review guidelines, all projects follow the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. All projects are being considered for the issuance of a certificate of appropriateness. All projects are considered on a case-by-case basis. The Ohio City Design Review Committee is advisory to the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Recommendations by this committee are not final actions. Depending on the scope of the project, submissions may be approved administratively or will need to be reviewed by the Cleveland Landmarks Commission. Projects will be scheduled at the next available commission meeting after an action is taken. So all that being said, if we want to call the meeting to order and do roll call.
Okay, we're going to call the April 20th, 2023 Ohio City Design Review Committee meeting to order. Dan, please call the roll.
All right, Mr. Frondorf,
Here.
Ms. Lamb, Mr. Lozier, Ms. Marinucci,
Here.
Mr. Sambry,
Here.
Mr. Talley,
Here.
and Mr. Wall. Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Okay. Call the first item.
So the first item is case number OC 23-06 has been removed from the agenda at the request of the applicant. They just asked for another couple of weeks. There's a scheduling conflict. So we'll move on to agenda item number 2, case OC 23-19, 1921 West 25th Street. It's a renovation of the building. I believe it's going through the storefront renovation program. So we have Laura Bala representing the storefront program here to present. So Laura, I have the presentation here, so if you want to just let me know when you want me to click to the next slide, you can take it over from here.
Thank you very much. I am a consultant to the storefront renovation program, and we'll just quickly review the plans for GSF Properties, also home of Nate's Deli and Index Coffee and Books. You can proceed to the next slide, please. The program is pretty straightforward. There is substantial masonry repair needed, especially to the parapet wall. Frost Building Maintenance will be making all of those repairs, as well as painting the masonry. bulkheads are in poor shape, so we're actually going to be replacing those entirely and with an Extira product, but to match the existing, and it will be painted a dark charcoal gray. The second floor windows will be repaired as needed and painted the pewter gray color. And 2 new awnings will be installed. The current awning at Nate's Deli is a little too wide. It jumps the piers. So a new one's being installed to fit within the storefront opening. And then a new awning at Index Coffee and Books is being installed as well. Next slide, please. The specific colors for the body, Stillwater, Downing Stone for the stone. The awnings will be charcoal gray with a removable valance in black, and the bulkheads will also be black. These colors are going to be tested at the building to ensure that they are what the design specialist is intending, but we anticipate that these are the colors that will be utilized. And then the final slide, please. Just a before and after to give you a sense of the proposed changes. Are there any questions?
The paint that you intend on using, I know it's painted already, and I don't know what kind of paint that is, but will this be masonry paint? In other words, paint that allows the masonry to breathe?
Absolutely. Frost Building Maintenance, who's doing the work, has a wonderful track record and is very sensitive to issues regarding, historic brick structures. So we will ensure that they use the proper materials for a long-lasting result.
And is the current paint that is on there now being removed prior to repainting, or is it just being painted over the current paint?
It will be, prepared, removed to the extent possible, but they are not going to power wash or do anything invasive to remove what isn't, what is still solid. So Tim Barrett and Greg Frost have discussed this already, so I have a high degree of confidence that it will be done appropriately, but it will not be done in a way that will damage the current status of the brick.
Okay. And then a couple of slides ago, it said brick or masonry repair work. Can you specify what that entails?
The masonry repair?
Yes.
Yes. So the most significant, I actually have the bid. If you wanted to switch to share the screen, I guess I could post that. But they're anticipating actually taking down several levels of brick at the parapet level down to, I believe, that first stone detail, and rebuilding it because there's a significant wave. There's at the coping, some concrete was used instead of stone coping, so it's being replaced with stone. The joints between the two buildings are being repaired with a more appropriate building joint that will expand, allow for the expansion and contraction. Let's see, was that?
Well, sort of. Is the brick that is being, are you reusing the brick that is there now, or are you using a new brick when you rebuild the parapet wall?
I see, I'm sorry. Let's see, I believe they are going to try to reuse any brick that is able to be reused, but there is likelihood that they'll have to utilize, new brick as well. But it, or I should say, brick new to this project, but it will be carefully matched to, work with the existing brick.
And I know that that's probably less of a concern here in that it's painted, but
Mhm.
down the road, should a new owner or whatever decide to remove the paint and expose the brick, we want to make sure that the brick there is appropriate. And then the stone cap, what can you said, is that being replaced or reused?
The existing stone cap will be reused, but where the parapet steps up in the center,
Yes.
that was at some time replaced with concrete. So the concrete will be removed and new sandstone caps will be installed.
Excellent. And then finally, I think it was on the slide after this slide, it mentioned that the windows will be cleaned and reused. Are any of the windows being replaced?
We don't anticipate replacing, but there will be some sash repair. Some of the decorative caps, especially at the edges, the ends, are in need of repair as well. So there is a fair amount of that, but they are not doing a wholesale replacement of the sash.
And the repairs we made with the same materials and in the same style?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Any other committee members have questions? If not, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay, Dan, would you call the roll?
Motion to approve is presented. Mr. Frondorf,
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
Mr. Sambury,
Yes.
and Mr. Talley.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Laura will follow up with next steps after the meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Now we're moving on to case 22-034 Bridgeworks. This project was previously approved by the Landmarks Commission last year with the requirement that they come back for landscaping, parking garage updates. So we have Graham Vasey, Steve Jennings. I'm not sure if there are other members of your team here, but as with the last presentation, if you guys want to talk through it, just let me know when you want me to change slides and hand it over to you.
Yeah, Steve Jennings with LDA is going to walk through the slides, but appreciate everyone's time.
Dan, I want to hop in. I need to recuse myself on this.
Okay, that was Michael, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Dan, does that remove quorum? Or are we still okay?
Technically, we had quorum at the start of the meeting,
Okay.
which is what we typically use. So we still have quorum. Yeah, at this point.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I'm Steve Jennings with LDA Architects. I'm here with Jesse Swigert, another architect, and Emily Loomis, our landscape designer. So we'll walk through this. Dan, if you want to go to the next slide. So essentially there's 3 items we want to review today. As Dan mentioned, the conditions from the September approval included landscaping in the parking garage. We also made one minor change to the tower that was previously approved. And you can see in this side-by-side, the changes. One, we added an additional story, which is adding a office component to the mixed-use building. And I guess I'm assuming that we've been here a few times, so I think everybody hopefully has an understanding of the project from before. If not, feel free to interject with questions. But it is a mixed-use project with retail on the ground floor, residential on the 2nd through 9th floor or 10th floor, and then the 11th floor would be the office component, a restaurant on the 12th floor, and then a hotel from floors 13 through 16. So this is just comparing what on the left was approved on the September 8th meeting, and what we're proposing today with the additional story is on the right side. We're going to go to the next slide. And this is just the opposite view from the west. The previous view was from the east side. Next slide. And then from material standpoint, all the facade materials are the same as previously approved in the September meeting. So I guess if we want to maybe break it up into those three pieces, are there questions on this component? The overall height is changing from 162 to 170, so it's a minimal change in height. And then if you actually go back to the 2021 approval, the original design was approved at 200 feet, so we're still well below that height limit. But I'm sorry, was there any questions on the height change?
Doesn't sound like it. You can go to the next item.
So this is the site plan. This is really from a building footprint standpoint, exactly what we presented in September. So we had the detached one-story retail building at the corner of West 25th and Viaduct, the tower, in the middle part of the site, still maintaining the existing historic ticket booth along Detroit, and then the detached parking garage on the east side of the site. So footprint-wise, everything's the same. The next slides will go into the landscape design, and this is kind of showing the overall site design with both the hardscape and soft landscaping. So I'll let Emily kind of give you more detail in regards to those items. Next slide.
So the species selected for this project provide a variety of diverse and climate appropriate trees, shrubs, and perennials. You can go to the next slide. You can go to the next slide. The physical characteristics will provide 4 seasons of interest, as well as tolerate being in the urban environment. The landscape plan aims to help grow the urban tree canopy, providing 44 additional trees to the site. We are saving 6 trees along Detroit. And this will not only provide value to the environment, but also the community. Go to the next slide.
So these are the coverings that we'll talk about with the garage towards the end of the presentation. But there are 2 species of ivy and vines that we're proposing for the garage that provide a little bit different coloration. These are the 2 that we see as succeeding the best in terms of growth and coverage. The first one to the left is the English ivy, which is pretty consistent throughout spring, fall, and summer, and then in winter changes color a little bit. But it is an evergreen vine, so will not lose its leaves in the wintertime. And the other one, to again bring a little bit of color diversity to the facade, is the Virginia creeper, which changes throughout all 4 seasons and has different colors, and then it does lose its leaves in the winter. Next slide, please. Here are just some of the proposed site furnishings throughout the site. We're proposing wood benches with metal supports, painted metal supports. Next slide. We'll be providing trash and recycling cans throughout the site, as well as bike racks located at the ticket booth, hotel, and the garage. And we're also proposing to provide scooter racks as well throughout the site. Next slide, please. To the left is the acorn light fixture that is used on along Detroit Avenue and throughout the city of Cleveland. And then to the right is our light up ballers that are along the walking paths and the hotel drop off on the site as well. Next slide. These are just some pictures of our design inspiration and our concept for the site plan, the colors and landscaping, the activity programming throughout the site. Next slide, please. Here's the layer of the hardscape. So the hardscape we're looking at tinting the concrete to provide a little bit of interest and intrigue and kind of highlight some of the paths for the pedestrians throughout the site, and also denote a little bit of where vehicular traffic belongs versus pedestrian. Next slide, please. For the softscape, we have a large amount of softscape on the site to help with rainwater collection, and also part of our lead points we're looking to achieve. We have a collection of dense planting beds, grass lawns that are typically elevated in height with a little bit of topography, so you can kind of create a place to hang out and lay or use however you would like. And then there's a few rock gardens on the north side, particularly under the bridge where it doesn't get very much sunlight. And then there's a little bit, some decorative rock beds along the north side along the hotel as well. And you can see we have a couple dedicated spots along Vermont for additional tree plantings along the street to maintain a tree line along Vermont. Next slide, please. And then this is just the overlay of the landscape plants on top of the site plan. Next slide, please. Then we can kind of flip to these. These are the renderings of the site plan and the garage. So this is off of West 25th Street with Vermont to the left, Viaduct to the left, and then Detroit to the right. Next slide, please. This is a view from the corner of 25th and Detroit looking towards the tower, the retail building to the left there. Next slide, please. This is looking south from Viaduct across the single-story retail building. Next slide, please. And then this is looking to the west between the ticket booth to the left and then the tower to the right. Next slide, please. This is along the bridge. So this is our main pedestrian walkway along the bridge. This is between the one-story portion of the tower and the bridge along Detroit. Next slide. This is looking south between the ticket booth and the one-story cafe part of the hotel tower, looking towards the bridge in the background. Slide, please. So a view of the ticket booth from right outside the cafe area, looking to the left. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the space between the tower and the garage, which will serve as kind of a multi-purpose event space for where we can park food trucks. And just a reminder to everyone, so this space also has 2 easements overlaid on top of it. The first easement is for a sewer sanitary easement that goes between the tower and the parking garage for access in the future in case it needs repair. The second easement is for the utility access to the underbridge. For the power company to be able to drive through the site and drive under the bridge to be able to make any repairs to the electrical service system. Next slide, please. This is a view to the north of the tower, looking west along the Vermont and the Viaduct Street. Next slide, please. And then this is a view looking south between the garage and the tower. Next slide, please. Another view looking to the west along the north side of the tower, the hotel drop-off. Next slide, please. Another view of the hotel drop-off with the garage in the background. And for the next slide, and we'll talk about the garage a little bit. That's another slide looking north. I think there's one more than the garage. So garage would be it's a mixed-use garage. So the garage houses 4 separate retail spaces, elevator lobby, and then a large bike storage facility for the tenants of the building. The entrance for the garage is off of Vermont. It is about 6.5 stories. Contains over 230 parking spaces, both compact and standard size parking spaces. For the exterior, we're looking at the potential vine growth. So we're providing hardy, large size planting beds at the base of the garage, both between the storefronts, and then as we get along to the other sides, we have longer continuous runs of planting beds along the south and the west elevations to allow the goal is to allow the vines to grow up the facade and climb and cover as much of the garage facade as possible. They will be maintained and trimmed around the storefronts, but once they get above, they're designed to climb and spread as we would kind of hope they would. And plan that they would. We would add some additional metal, thin metal supports minimally just to maybe help widen the coverage around the garage so that the verticals are a little wider than just the columns. Next slide, please. Just another view from the tower, the bridge to the right. Next slide, please. And again, for all the planting beds, we would diversify between those two ivy selections we selected so that this is kind of showing more summer view when most of the vines would be green. But the goal would either be a mix of both, the red and then the evergreen vine as well, the English ivy. Next slide, please. I believe that's the last one. All right, so I guess, do we want to field maybe any questions on the landscaping first, and then, if there's not questions on the landscaping, we can go to the garage?
My hunch is that all of our attention is going to be focused on the garage. So we can move to the garage then. I don't think my comments will come as any surprise. They were the comments I made when you guys first presented regarding the garage. I don't think the ivy, and I do understand that this ivy that you've selected doesn't drop its leaves in winter. I don't think that that's a sufficient treatment for this garage. I don't think it's will look good year round, but the covering, it's, I think, inadequate screening for a parking garage of this size. Especially since it's something that people will see as they enter into Ohio City or depart for downtown, given its location and its massing. I can't support the screening that's proposed for the garage at this time. How do other committee members feel?
I feel the same way. I mean, the rest of the landscaping was great. I'm great with all of that. Is there a compelling reason to propose a green covering versus a cladding system for this garage?
I think we're trying to make it a little bit more dynamic and, something that'll change over time and, continuously improve the look of the garage. So it's not so much of a static facade. It, changes each year.
Can you provide any examples of where this treatment was given to a garage within the same climate or planting zone as Cleveland?
Yeah, we could put together a slide of example projects.
My grave concern is that this that this not withstand the test of time, that it not. I think there needs to be more substantial screening and cladding to this garage, especially on the Detroit Avenue side, but preferably on all 3 public-facing sides, or maybe all 4 public-facing sides.
I guess I would echo that. Actually, I really love the landscaping. I really love the colors and the plans there. I do worry about, how this will, as previously stated, how this is going to hold up. And then kind of what it looks like prior to getting to that point. where it's, saturated in green. Um, I like the idea of it. I don't know that I would love a cladding system per se, depends on kind of what it is. Um, and then, I guess yeah, uh, just kind of echo what everyone said, and I apologize, wasn't here previously. I do like the idea, but there are some very obvious climate concerns, and then I don't know if there's space for things like paintings or murals or, sort of like community investment and like um, sort of what goes on this space or things to do with lighting. I mean, there's a lot of different options that could produce a dynamic effect. Like I said, I love this, but I don't, would it look like this? I'm not sure.
If we lived in Miami and you could have the tower, the hanging gardens and everything, and it'd be green year round, that's one thing. It could provide more complete covering. I don't think that this is it.
Well, we've all seen what English ivy does to buildings in this town, and you've seen buildings where the English ivy will cover the entire facade of a building. So Northern Ohio is a good zone to grow things, and this stuff will grow, and it will cover the building, and that you have plenty of examples of this kind of thing happening in this town on other buildings. But it's not going to happen in day one. It's going to take time for that to grow and cover that garage. And to Steve's point, it will be dynamic because it'll continue to change every year. And because it's a natural thing, colors of the leaves and the whole texture, it'll blow in the wind. It's just going to be more dynamic than something that's a piece of aluminum stuck on the side of the garage. We could send you examples that would illustrate what this could look like, or examples of real buildings that have done this. This stuff will grow in Northern Ohio.
Right, but we're going to wait. I mean, it's 6 stories tall. We're going to be waiting 6, maybe 10 years for the thing to be clad. I think that you need to go back to the drawing board on this and have coverings between the stories, make it look, if not like a real building, then something other than a massive parking garage.
But it is a massive parking garage. So I want to make sure that.
Well, no, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Maybe we can.
We're not trying to trick anybody. This is public parking garage that we want people to know that they can park in. So we're competing in terms of that, but here are the notes.
And the beauty of a landscape solution is it only gets better in time. When you do something that's architectural and you put a material on a building, that material doesn't look as good over time. I mean, we're not going to clad it in copper or something, like that. So this is going to just get better and better and better. And in 10 years and in 15 years, you're going to think this is, amazing. So you got to think of landscape solution as different than an architectural solution. And it grows and it matures and it gets better.
Again, I love it. I love like a phasing, we have phasing plans and things like that. I along with your examples, I love something just like a phasing elevation or something so that we can kind of get a 5, 10, 15-year look at what it's going to be doing. Because I mean, I love a building covered in green. I'm here for it. I'm here for it's very romantic to me. I mean, it's a parking garage, but it's, it stands out. But it's like, what's the growth rate of ivy? Can we picture that on an elevation? 2, 5, 10, something like that, just so we can see how long till maximum coverage. And if there are any blind spots or any blank spots, then maybe the opportunity presents itself for, another kind of finish, a paint, a color of this, or that, something that would fill in until we get it to be a parking garage that I just want to be in.
I think if you look at, maybe Indianapolis, maybe Charleston, South Carolina, other areas with large parking garages that come to mind have a better screening and clad system. It might be helpful to look at how parking garages are treated in other historic districts as well. And I think, Dan, I don't know, they were sent to me, but I don't know, were they sent to you, comments from another committee member as well on the parking garage?
Referring to Mr. Lozier's comments?
Yes, yes.
Yes, yeah, he did. He did send those. I can share those if everyone would like.
Sure.
He just he said that the current proposed garage design as presented runs counter to the feedback that was given in the past, i.e. no greenery, as it's tough to control and it will be brown most of the year. He doesn't have any issue with the additional stories or the additional story being added to the tower, and everything was fine with the site landscaping plan. So a lot of the mirroring the comments that you guys have made.
So why don't we, I can't as chair make a motion, but my suggestion would be a motion along the lines of approving the landscaping plan and the additional story to the plan with the request that the parking garage come back or table that aspect of the proposal, if the applicant is amenable to that.
I guess my question to this committee, and maybe it's to the city staff, is understanding that the feedback's the feedback, and there's not I don't have, like, I'm not trying to counter any of the comments because that's what they are. One question I've got is, can we approve the massing of the actual parking garage that somehow allows us to progress? Like, it's, we need to have a parking garage on that site with current building code and for us to close on financing. And so I think, my request is there a way to do this that allows us to get the foundation permits and phase this so that, again, we're not going to go out of the ground here for another year. But for us to get to that point where we start to move forward, it's like, okay, I think everybody would acknowledge that a parking garage is a necessity for a site like this. Everybody's on board with the site in general in terms of the layout. We just need to do the facade. So if we can get approval that this can move forward with the program of the garage, but that we wouldn't be able to get an occupancy permit until this committee approved the actual veneer facade, or however we want to call it. So that's the applicant's request, is based on that. Like, let us get to the starting line on the financing and really work on this and try to get creative, because like I just saw, like, Indianapolis, like, they've got ones that look a little bit better depending on who you are, and there are ones that look a lot worse, that look like the Death Star flying in. And I think that's my problem, is like, it's a parking garage. But we need it. It's a necessary evil in 2023.
To that point, Graham, I mean, I am also, I'm hesitant, skeptical with the Ivy, but am acknowledging it. Yes, it is a parking garage. Just we need more of them to support some of the parking loads that we're getting as the density is increasing in the neighborhood. And it's also a little bit kind of secondary on the site in terms of contributing, and I get that. I think in that vein of thought, I kind of, in this rendering that's shown right now, kind of illustrates where I'd like to add to my comments, is that how we're treating the landscaping condition at the base then of this garage and the pedestrian level experience, because you have a really compelling and dynamic landscaping throughout this site, and you can even see it on the right of this rendering, and then it kind of just like dies out and it's like a bunch of ivy sprouting without, like, maybe it's more beds along the perimeter, something to like give a little bit more of a seam transition from hardscape landscaping that's going up a hardscaping, that starts to become somewhat more compelling to me if we can, or could be more compelling, like just from my Google search of like English ivy on a garage, when you're taking the viewpoint from the pedestrian level, making that experience a little bit more compelling would help convince me, I think. And if that were something
I guess I'm
considered
not-
and integrated, I don't think that I don't have any issue with the massing of the garage in the site plan like that. Your request for that seems reasonable to me. It's more like how we're like if this isn't the final solution, if there's just consideration to how that happens, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
along the shoreway experience.
Totally. And I'm not like, my goal is not to litigate Ivy or not Ivy for this group, like, or at least give us the time to provide some of those answers on like what the phased approach is. Yeah, I'm interested in Dan being able to say, okay, if a committee member makes a motion that says this is approved, the additional height, and this is not obviously I can't make a motion. This is just the chair asked for applicants' feedback, and so I'm just giving it. So like if somebody could frame a motion that approves the increase story, approves the landscaping design for the 25th Street retail, the 16-story tower, and approves the massing of the garage, which won't impact us getting the building permit for the foundation and close on financing, we then would never be able to get an occupancy permit until we then got the approval for the facade. So I don't know how we make that riddle, but the request is that we continue to move forward on these other elements. We don't slow down on the facade, and know that like we will come back with another alternative or answering those questions in details. Like that's not my reaction's not to that. It's more just to.
I think that makes sense. So approve the additional story, approve landscaping, approve the massing of the garage, request that the applicant come back within, and you tell us what time frame you'd like, a month, 2 months, but come back within a short amount of time to address the screening and cladding of the parking garage.
So the initial Landmarks Commission approval of this project was contingent, like a certificate of appropriateness was contingent on, approval of the garage, landscaping, all of that. So I don't know, Graham, if it's being able to get a certificate of appropriateness for the tower in order to pull permits and start moving forward on some elements of this. I don't know that just approving the massing would get you there. I think, you could.
Well, the massing allows the program, which backs us into the financing. So I think
if that's all you need, I can't sign off on the permit at this point. I just want you to.
Dan, could we phrase it as the structure of the garage?
Not
massing, structure
is like that'd be helpful.
You tell us, Dan, you're the.
Well, I still don't know that I could sign off on, a permit or a certificate of appropriateness for the project because it wouldn't necessarily have final approval at that point. I guess there's the options of approving it, tabling it, and coming back in a couple of weeks, or disapproving it, and Mr. Vacy could go to Landmarks Commission next week, kind of with the comments that you guys didn't like the greenery, and Landmarks Commission might agree or might have different theories, or it would give the development team the opportunity to revise the plan if they could do it quickly before the Landmarks meeting next week.
I don't know that I followed you, Dan. So we would be doing what again?
Well, I guess just, I'm just saying that, there's the option to table it, and the development team can come back in 2 weeks, or, it could be denied, in which case, Graham could take it to the Landmarks Commission next week. Or it could be approved, in which case it would go to Landmarks next week too. I just don't want to. I don't want to have a motion that doesn't really get us anything.
Well, no, it does, because the problem is we got approval with conditions.
Yeah.
And with your new leadership, from my perspective, different than the previous leadership of Landmarks, where those conditions would have allowed us to pull preliminary permits for the foundational and excavation work. And you communicated to me and the design team that your interpretation of conditions would require full approval. Now you're putting a heavier burden on the development team to get full approval. So conditions actually is no better than a table or a disapproval. And my point is, how do we get conditions that satisfy you that doesn't hold up a project of this scale in a market that every day is like whack-a-mole with commodities costs and capital markets? So that's what my request is, you know, let's be pragmatic and all acknowledge that the facade of the garage is something this committee does not approve, but everything else, you know, is or should be. And, you know, that's the request.
Is it something that we could approve with condition that they bring a different facade treatment to Landmarks and Landmarks can take the wheel on it? I mean,
I would not be keen
you
on.
wouldn't be amenable? Okay.
And I don't think if you went to Landmarks that they would, given the remarks here today and their perspective, feel much different. I guess I'm looking to Dan. I'm comfortable with the approving massing, but I hear what Dan's saying that on the city hall side of things, that's on the permitting side, that's not viable.
Yeah, I'm just based on the conditions that were placed on the Landmarks approval. I'm just not sure that it gets us all the way to being able to sign off on the overall certificate of appropriateness for the entire project, because there was the condition placed on it that it had to, you know, come back for final approval of landscaping, garage signage, that sort of thing. And signage we know is going to be down the road.
This, what I'm saying is this is down the road, like for the same reason that like we're talking about a veneer of, like, there's nothing that's going to change on the structure of this. So your point on signage is very similar to what we're treating. Like, we're putting signage on this garage, a big sign that wraps around it. We're getting the feedback that the sign that's made up of English ivy is not acceptable, and that's fine. But we're really, you're talking about holding up a project that has the main components of a 16-story tower, a retail building on the corner of 25th, all the landscaping because of the parking garage signage.
And you want to be able to, at this point, you know, be able to, do you want to be able to pull the permit to start site work, foundation work, all of that? Is that?
Yeah, so that's part and parcel with a close of finance. So the mechanics of moving forward is we've got, and that would let us, the program doesn't change, just like the signage isn't, like, you know, we can't, the financing isn't contingent on the signage package. And I'm just asking that this isn't contingent on essentially signage of a parking garage.
So maybe a motion to approve, you know, the landscaping, the extra floor on the tower, and then, to approve, I guess, the plan for the parking garage. I mean, that's, you know,
Can we approve
your footers shouldn't change all that with the
right? Can we approve the
condition that it come
foundation?
back for the facade treatments.
Yeah, we would have to come back. Like we could never
Okay.
open the project. You could put some sort of.
If is it because right, it's Graham. It's going to be a foundation package first. So the first thing that Dan is signing off on is foundation. So Dan, could we approve the foundation, like the foundational footprint?
And so, yeah, with the understanding that, yeah, that wouldn't change at that point. I guess the, you know, would that include the, you know, the foundation work? Would that necessitate the demolition of the old county buildings?
Yeah, and that's part of my my interest in getting some progress here. And recognizing that our team has to put more work into this. So that, again, not at all trying to litigate that component. It's just the request to get
Yes.
through.
From a permitting process, so we have submitted drawings, for the demolition, and currently the demolition permit is on hold pending, final approval from the design review and landmarks. So yeah, the step would be, we would get the demolition permit, and then, maybe 2 months after that, we would get the foundation permit, which would start with the tower and then, go to the garage. Probably, but the tower has a basement, right? So you're going to start with the lowest foundations first.
Sure.
So Dan, would we be in business if I phrased it as motion to approve 16th story landscaping and foundation or footprint of the garage structure?
I think so. Maybe just with the, I guess,
With the condition of
that they come
returning,
back
yeah,
for, yeah.
the condition of returning for facade treatment of the garage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would get you there. It's not going to change the site at all. It's really just the detail elements akin to signage, as Graham pointed out.
An applicant would be amenable to that. I think our goal is just to get us to the starting line, acknowledging that we wouldn't be able to get a permit to go anywhere out of the ground with the way that we understand that would be framed. So we could go out of the ground on the tower, we can go out of the ground on the retail, but until this committee approves, we're stuck at only foundational work, which was always we were never going to put a request for a building permit for everything at this point, just because of the engineering lift that is involved with this.
Okay. All right. And then when you come back, just so that there's not more back and forth, I think the solution I'm looking for in the garage ultimately is a permanent solution. So it's not like a screening like Graham, like on Church and State, which, after a number of years deteriorates and blows down, or Ivy, which, may or may not die. Something that is a more permanent screening to blocking the between floor view into the parking garage. I think that would be, in my opinion, I won't speak for everyone else, the best solution here, a permanent, something that's not going to blow away or die. But I'm in agreement with the plan that we have right now.
Okay, so there is a motion on the table from Nia to approve the 16th story of the landscaping and the foundation / footprint of the garage with the condition that the garage return with facade details. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Dan, call the roll.
All right. Mr. Frendorf,
Yes.
Ms. Marinucci,
Yes.
and Mr. Talley.
Yes.
All right, the motion passes. Graham will get you on the agenda for landmarks for next week. We have your presentation. I guess if you want to make any edits to it or anything, we need a quick turnaround on that. So we can circle back if you do want to make changes. Let me know today, and we can sort that out. But we'd need them post haste.
Thank you, everybody, for your time, service, and consideration.
Before we
feedback.
leave,
Yeah.
we have one question. Just thinking going forward and dealing with this garage and its facade. Alex, we understand your position, but I heard from others that were open to green plus something that was more permanent. And so it was a mix. So is that something that we could pursue as an alternative to what you see today?
I think I would be agreeable to that. I really liked Philip's request of seeing a phasing, how it's phasing of the growth pattern. I do think it's a both. If greenery is an element, I do think it's a both and, where we do need some more. I would like to see kind of a middle ground from what you're showing here and what Alex's preference is, with the the climate and growth consideration.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Take care. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Really do.
All right. That is our last agenda item. I don't have any administrative reports unless Alex, do you have an impromptu chair's report?
And I do not have an impromptu chair report.
Dan, what was the
Yes.
project a few meetings ago that we, well, the ones that we disapproved? What was, any report from Landmarks Commission? Like what?
The solar
Was
panels?
it the solar? What, wasn't there another one that we all disapproved of that they
And,
took?
the house on, I think it was
Oh,
Jay. the turret.
Jay.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh, yeah, the J one. Was that,
So
okay, yeah, that.
so the J Avenue property, they, we put them on Landmark's agenda. They asked for an extra couple weeks. And then they returned and they went to the meeting last week and they got approval. They kind of squared it up, reduced the turret to make it more just like a building element instead of a full
A
turret.
normal turret.
And I apologize, I wasn't at that meeting. I was out of town.
That's
But
fine.
but yeah, my understanding is that passed. And then the solar panels, they've asked for more time. So they haven't gone to Landmarks yet, but looks like maybe in May they will.
Okay. That one sucks because it's just the requirements are just so black and white on visibility. I don't want to be like
it's a challenge.
it
Yeah,
sucks. It does.
Yeah.
And there are properties there are certain properties that have orientations that would be ideal for that, and they do not. That's what sucks. Great. Can you, if you or Jessica or whomever is available, can you just send us the updated plan for the J House? I'm just curious where they landed.
Sure.
Especially if it's improved per the comments. I would love to see where they landed with that.
Yeah, we can get that out to the committee.
Yeah, the other change that they made is they raised the house up about 2 steps, so it wasn't at ground level anymore, because that was another comment from the committee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they did make some of the changes requested.
And do we have another date yet for the My Place proposals in the crosshairs? I know that they went last week, right, to the commission too?
They did for concept and they got feedback. We haven't gotten a request from them to be on an agenda for final yet. So
okay.
Yeah, so we're waiting to hear from them.
Okay. I have a few coming back through the hot to you guys too, that I'll try to get to you for May. So you'll see
Cool.
mine coming in.
All right, we'll keep an eye out.
Thank you.
Dan, while we were on the parking garage subject, any update on, or have I already asked this, on the Church and State parking screening? So that's been good for probably 2 years now.
Not that I'm aware of. I'll have to look into that one. Is the issue that
it's no longer
disappeared?
It's been gone for probably 2 years.
Okay, and we want a plan from them on what they're proposing to replace it with.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let me look into that. Okay, cool.
I appreciate it. Okay, everyone.
Yeah, I guess with that, if you want to adjourn the meeting, we can.
Then we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Thank you.
You too.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye all.